Greetings, amigops, and top teners everywhere. Welcome back to Top 10 with Kyle and Mike. I am your host, Kyle. Opposite me today, as he is every week, is your co-host, Mike. This week, as we do every week, we will be dissecting a top 10 list. I do not know what that list is. It's Mike's list. He put it together. I don't know what it is. We're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it. We're going to debate it vigorously. By the end of the episode, we'll have a definitive list. So, Mike, what are we doing this week?
All right, Kyle. So I hope my excitement comes through every week, but I have a feeling it will come through especially this week. This is a topic I've been thinking about for a while, about a little piece of art that I love above pretty much all others. A little television show called Parks and Recreation, which I think a lot of people like. The thing that I love about Parks and Recreation, I love two things above all. I love, first, that, and I've said this to you before, it has a really kind heart. At its core, it's a very sweet show. The other thing I love about it, and this is what we'll be talking about, is how effectively it builds a world. When you're making a TV show, writing a book, whatever it is, I personally really like when you go down one of two alleys. You either go the Cormac McCarthy, like you could be anywhere at any time. This is very blank. Nobody watches TV. They just eat and live their lives. Or you go the J.K. Rowling route and everything is like absurdly detailed and built out. Our friends at Parks and Rec took that second route and they built this incredibly rich world that I love. So today we're going to be talking about the top 10 secondary characters from Parks and Recreation.
Incredible. It's finally happened. This is a list that I have fully formed and ready to go. So I also had a lot of help on this one from Allegis and Dill, both avid fans of Parks and Rec. So sorry, listeners, this is going to be a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah, apologies.
I'm very, very excited about this. This show, just before we get into it, the strength of it lies in how, we've discussed this many times, how a character can show up for one episode and be remembered 6 seasons later.
Yeah.
This world is so, despite being so ridiculous, feels so utterly lived in, and it's in large part due to the characters that inhabit this space.
Absolutely.
I am so excited.
All right, let's dive right in. I think the rules are fairly clear. Like, there's certain characters who we might want to talk about how we consider them. I'd say generally there's a pretty clear distinction between the primary characters and the secondary characters. But if there's debate, we can discuss.
I think there are only a few characters that kind of straddle the line. We can talk about them.
All right, so number 10. This is a character whose inclusion in this show, it gets right to the core of how goofy and redonkulous this show is. This is a character who showed up 3 times. This is real-life basketball player Detlef Schrempf. So Detlef Schrempf makes his first appearance during the telethon episode. Tom is supposed to pick him up from the airport, gets Detlef Schrempf, but then waylays him to the Snake Hole Lounge in order to use his sort of minor Indiana celebrity to get people to try to buy. I think he wants to buy a piece of the snake hole at this point, or maybe he's selling his snake juice. I don't think he's selling his snake juice yet, but he waylays Detlef Schrempf, drinks like 2 beers, gets hammered, while Detlef is just sitting there wishing he would take him to the telethon.
What I love about Detlef Schrempf is he's in that perfect zone of celebrity where, like, most people don't know who he is, but he's huge in Indiana, and it does a really good job of, like, making you remember that Pawnee is in, like, the middle of nowhere, Indiana. So, like, getting Detlef Schrempf is the biggest deal you could imagine.
Yep. Well, second biggest. Well, you could always get Lil Sebastian, who we're not counting as a secondary character.
He's the main character.
Yeah. Yeah, Detlef Schrempf is amazing, but of course, the highlight of Detlef Schrempf is when he and Roy Hibbert are playing basketball at Entertainment 720. And they're just shooting hoops there. And then the two of them start giving business advice to Tom. And Tom tells him to shut the hell up. He and John Ralphio, like, tell him to shut up and look pretty. That's what they're paying him for.
And then they just shrug and keep bawling. Like,
yeah. It's incredible. And also, just as a personal note, Detlef Schrempf actually is a financial advisor now. He came up, this is no joke, he came up in my company's Salesforce system when I was like first starting out. I saw the name Detlef Schrempf and I was like, this guy literally has to be the Detlef Schrempf, and it turns out he is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. You work with Detlef Schrempf.
I do. He's actually my boss, so I had to include him.
Really?
No, I wish. He works, I think he's in Seattle or something now.
Oh.
Because I think he played for the Sonics at one point.
Yeah.
At any rate, Detlef Schrempf is a real person who really is on Parks and Rec, and that is something for which we should all be deeply grateful.
So, it's interesting because he's the first in a very long and storied list of cameo appearances on Parks and Rec. I feel like I think the fact that he's on it like 3 times.
Yeah, so that's a part of the reason I include him here is because he is on the show 3 times.
Yeah, but like, fucking John McCain and
yes, yeah,
Joe Biden,
Barbara Boxer, Joe Biden. There's
Michelle
a bunch
Obama.
of people. Yes, Michelle Obama.
Like Michelle Obama was on Parks and Rec, people.
Yeah, whatchamacallit? Was Reggie Wayne? I know Andrew Luck was.
Definitely.
Jim Irsay was on it.
I for sure Luck was. I think Reggie Wayne was on in that. By the way, that's probably and that's definitely a top 5er for me in terms of Parks and Rec episodes. The bachelor parties.
Oh my god, this show is so amazing. Just quick bachelor party note. I think we've talked about this, but when they were filming Jerry's bachelor party at that ice cream place, you know how Jerry gets the extra cone? That's just awesome because he always drops it. But apparently Chris Pratt did not understand that most actors, when filming a scene involving the consumption of food, just sort of lick and or chew and then regurgitate said food because there are so many takes, and he apparently ate the equivalent of like 6 large ice creams on this scene. It just makes me so happy.
It makes me happy because if Andy were shooting a TV show, that's exactly what he would
like
do.
His TV show, Johnny Karate.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Does Johnny Karate count as a minor character because he's an alter ego?
I don't know. That's a good question, because then you have to include Janet Snakehole. Like, it's sort of Burt Macklin, FBI.
Tommy Timberlake.
I literally was doing that the other day. Caroline and I were walking somewhere. I want to say we were walking to the hospital where my nephew was just about to be born, and I was like, my shirt says, "What's cracking?" Now it says, "What's cracking, boo?" Tommy Timberlake.
Amazing. All right. What's number 9?
Number 9. So number 9, so you'll see, I had to make some combinations because there's just so many good characters. So this one, I combined all of the Saperstein clan. So Jean-Ralphio is on the show very early and is immediately hilarious. I've heard some people say they don't like Jean-Ralphio, but that's the point.
When you wouldn't personally like him.
Yeah, Jean-Ralphio is supposed to be a douche, and he's amazing. That was hilarious! Like, he sings everything. I like when he tries to do those little rhymes, but always ends on the wrong. He gets the rhyme, and then does one extra word.
And then, I think Tommy even says one time, just stop, you have it.
And he won't. So he's amazing. Mona Lisa is incredible. She like comes in and won't work. She's at Tommy's Closet or whatever it's called, Rent-A-Swag at that time, I think. And she's like, I have to work on my ecstasy. And
I love how even Jean-Ralphio, oh, my sister Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
The West.
Yeah. And she's like, they're incredible. And they like do the money, please. So that's one of the other great things is we have them for several seasons, sort of have whatever we're imagining their lives are like. And then we meet Dr. Saperstein, played by the lovely Henry Winkler, aka the Fonz. And he talks about like rubbing jelly on the belly for Anne, and like he's the OBGYN for Anne and her baby, and also for Leslie and Ben.
I love when Chris Traeger says, Dr. Saperstein, I know that we should hate you since you have personally ruined one of our close friends' own businesses. But we love you so much. They all like they're all group hugging.
He's like, I'm lovable. And I love seeing their home life. Like when Jean-Ralphio is at home and he tells his dad something happened to the TV and ordered a bunch of porno. It's amazing. It's like an incredible image to imagine those 3 all in a room somewhere.
My only problem with this is that there are a lot of amazing minor characters on this show. But John Ralphio is one of my all-time favorites. When we get later in this pod, I'll have to argue for it to be a little higher, probably.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I think that they're probably a little low at 9.
John Ralphio.
John Ralphio. All right, number 8, one of several great media personalities on this show, the great Joan Calamezzo.
Legendary newswoman.
Legendary newswoman. So, I have some advice for anybody listening to this pod. Do yourself a favor, go to the Parks and Rec Wikia page. So not their official Wikipedia, but go to like their little wiki page.
Yes.
Somebody wrote an extremely extensive fake biography of her, and it is extremely disturbing, but is in all ways consistent with the character that we actually see on screen. I mean, she's amazing. So I love when she talks about like, this isn't some sort of gotcha journalism, and then immediately brings out the gotcha girls who sing, "Don't gotcha!" And she's like such a great parody of both like big time media personalities and local access media people. She straddles that line in a really hilarious way. She's always intoxicated in some way. She has a huge nude portrait of herself in her bedroom. She's always flirting extremely inappropriately with Tom. She's incredible. She's got the Jones Book Club that for some reason is like a really important center of taste making in Pawnee.
She's amazing because she's in, if not the first season, she might be in the first season. She's in this show from wire to wire.
Yeah. Yeah, she's one of the longest running characters on the show. I bet if you pulled her IMDb, like the by episode sort, she's probably like number 15. Or maybe even a little higher.
I would say maybe even higher, because like even some of the major characters that we think about, like, yeah, because she's not in every episode though, you know. Like,
no, but she's in, I think I looked and she was in like 13 episodes, which is a lot.
Yeah, for sure. The name says it all. She's a legendary newswoman.
She is a legendary newswoman. I love Joan Calamezzo. She's great. And I think we'll talk to about it a little more with the media people, but this is one of the great ways that this world feels lived in, is you can actually imagine the citizens of Pawnee listening into the Joan Calamezzo show. I also love the chyrons that appear at the bottom of the screen when she's hosting. They're always extremely ridiculous and offensive. The people who call in are great. She checks Leslie's butt for a mole after Leslie gets into a sex scandal with Councilman Dexter.
On air.
Yes, on air. Checks her butt for the mole on air. It's just great.
I really love Ron's interactions with her.
Yes, he's great with her.
I can't remember if they're like promoting Leslie while she's running for office or if it's a stall tactic or something, but yeah. Ron is actually answering calls on her show.
Yeah. He starts talking about rubbing an actual, like an acorn or a walnut, rubbing an actual walnut into walnut wood to buff out the scratches. It's incredible. Because she's passed out. That's what it is. She claims she has like a cold or something.
Yeah, that's it.
And she's completely passed out on the couch next to him.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What about number 7?
Number 7 is your namesake, Kyle.
I was hoping he would make this list because I think it would be some people's tendency to overlook Kyle.
And that would be a foolish decision.
Absolutely. He's also, they taper him off a little bit towards the end. He's definitely front-loaded.
Yeah.
But he appears as late as the final season, for sure.
Yeah, he's great because he is such a perfect foil for young, ridiculously energetic Andy. So if you're not sure who we're talking about, Kyle is the guy who's always getting his shoes shined by Andy, and the highlight probably is when Andy reveals that Kyle was cheated on by his wife. And he's like, I told you that in confidence. And Andy's always like giving him a terrible shoe shine. I think he shines Kyle's like pants one time or something.
It's so funny. Someone walks up to Andy and he's polishing the seat of the chair.
Yes, that's what it is.
He's just like polishing it. He's like whistling. He's like,
yeah,
son, that's shoe polish. He's like, oh, that'll come right off. And then Kyle's in like the next chair over, and then when he gets up to leave, his butt is just completely covered in shoe.
And the great thing about that is that joke is really well done because Kyle doesn't then come sit into it. He comes up from a chair where he's already sitting. Like, it's a minor thing, but that's a much funnier way to write that joke.
Completely agreed. He just like he reminds me of Craig and Eric from Drake and Josh. Like, he's just always the butt of something unfortunate. He's just like the, oh, darn kind of character.
I feel like Andy often early especially had personal conversations with Anne where he was like trying to win Anne back, and Kyle's just sitting there like wishing he were somewhere else.
Yeah, he's like, hey, can I leave? It's like, shut up, Kyle.
Yeah. Oh, he's amazing. And he's, as we said, he's just such a perfect showcase for the talents of Chris Pratt.
And I think that's what's kind of funny is Kyle interacts only very briefly and seldomly with anyone that's not Andy.
It's hard to even remember a time when he interacts with somebody who isn't Andy.
The only time I can think of is when they're trying to get like fluoride put into the reservoir, and Tom puts together that like sparkle points thing, and they just have Kyle stand there, and it's like a presentation where it's like, if you drink fluoride, and it's like, boom, and it was Kyle before, and then it's like a super hot guy.
That's a really good point. Yeah, other than that, he's pretty much just Andy's buddy. Like, he might as well be an imaginary friend.
Oh.
That would be fun. That's a fun little fan theory.
If only he hadn't had that fluoride interaction. Oh well. Yeah, I have a soft spot for Kyle as my name is also Kyle.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
Thank you for giving Kyle his due. I don't think he would go any higher than this on this list, but thank you.
But he deserves to be mentioned.
Yeah.
All right, number 6 is another...
Did you prepare not top 3?
No, I decided specifically I didn't want to because I love the character so much. If I were forced to come up with a not top 3, I could probably do without... No, I love them all. I take it back. I'm not doing it. You can do it if you got any.
The only ones I would throw in there are... And he doesn't quite fit our criteria because he was a major character, and they realized their mistake. Mark Brandanowitz just kind of sucked, and they made the right choice in bailing.
Yes, that's reasonable. He was not a great character. He was sort of a rip-off low-energy Jim.
Yep. Yeah, like super low energy. Like the same apathy, but not charming, so it wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just Mark I can think of, so let's move on from this.
All right, let's roll to number 6. Number 6 is a classic. He's a guy who showed up more than you remember, who was sort of teased early and then we got more color on him later. Barney, the accountant.
From the accounting firm!
Yes. So Barney is the guy who is constantly jilted by Ben, who's always going to go work for him and is really excited. Barney's incredibly pumped, and then Ben inevitably leaves him at the altar. So I think his first appearance was when all of the local businesses were trying to get the sponsorship dollars from Leslie because she was helping to support some like rec center activities.
Yeah.
And he wanted it, and he's talking about accounting. He says, when it comes to accounting software, there's no accounting for taste, which is a great early tease of his love for financial and accounting puns, because he is later delighted by all puns that Ben makes about accounting. And anytime he hears it, he laughs just like that and then shouts, Ted!
You gotta get in here, Ben's back!
And then he like makes Ben say his joke again, and it's always so lame, even lamer the second time.
Kudos to... I'm gonna embarrassingly forget his name. Adam Scott. Because every time they do this, he like has this fake look of embarrassment on his face, but also like can't help but grinning because he loves that they appreciate the pun so much and repeats it. That's a really, really solid little tick that Adam Scott does that really nails that whole interaction.
Totally. And I think part of why it works is because you also see in his personal life that he does stuff like that. Like, he refers to himself as Bond, municipal Bond. Like, he's got plenty of that own shit in his life. And so, yes, he really appreciates that somebody appreciates it.
Side note, now that we're talking about that character, I love that initially he comes into the show as an avatar for the audience, and he doesn't get it, and he's totally normal. He doesn't understand the little Sebastian thing. And by the end of the show, he's just as ridiculous as any of them.
In a way that is totally convincing, and you believe that he has been absorbed into this world. I think now that you said it, I love this movement in the character, because the interaction he has with Anne about their days, about how they have like first car wash day, like they have all these ridiculous anniversaries. And he talks to Anne about how he has this incredibly long list of things that he has with Leslie, but they both look so happy and like resigned to their weird relationship with Leslie that's sort of how I feel about the show. Like he couldn't be with Leslie and not absorb some of her ridiculousness.
It follows. It makes yeah, exactly. But
absolutely,
I don't want to skip over Barney. But this particular character gets a lot of play in my personal life because Elise's sister Talia is studying accounting and currently has an internship with an accounting firm. So oftentimes when we see her, it gets brought up, hey, it's Talia from the accounting firm. Which I imagine working in an accounting firm, this comes up quite a bit.
I hope so. The problem is if you're actually like Barney, you don't know Barney exists. And that's sort of the beauty of Barney.
That's a good point. If we're talking about minor character crossover bonus content, when John Ralphio somehow, I think, maybe he doesn't actually get a job, but he like pretends that he has a job at the accounting firm. He does one lap through the office area, and Barney says, "You're fired." And John Ralphio goes, "Okay, just come out the same way I came in." It's like,
incredible.
It's just the teaser at the very end of the episode.
Totally. Well, that's what's cool about that I think you're getting at is it feels like these characters probably actually know each other because they've probably bumped into each other at JJ's.
Right.
Like, this is a small town. These people all have interactions, or they see each other at the food and stuff. Like, these things happen.
I love Barney from the accounting firm.
Me too.
I felt so bad for him when, in order to strong-arm him into giving April a job there, Andy puts a bunch of firecrackers in his car.
Yes! And he puts a mask on with April's face. He's, like, running around at it. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
All right, number 5. Number 5 is Joe Fantringham, otherwise known as Sewage Joe.
Sewage Joe isn't a high volume shooter.
Yeah.
But every time he shows up, nails like a 30-foot three.
Absolutely nails it. So I put together a couple things that he says. So Joe's take on women. So Joe only has a couple of rules for women he won't date. His only rules are can't be in a wheelchair, no cane, no gray hair. Which if I recall correctly, Leslie immediately responds with, so she can't be elderly. That's like his only rule. He also notably tries to get April into his van, which prompts Andy to finally sort of like come out and admit that he likes April because he prevents her from getting into the van. He also tells Leslie that she has a killer dumpster. Which I love because I think the term somebody might say is dumper, or they would not refer to a butt that way at all. But because he's so entrenched in the trash and sewage, he refers to it as her dumpster. He also makes a lot of gross like pipe jokes that I don't like. But I think we can all agree the absolute highlight of the Joe presence on this show is when he sends a picture of his penis to the entire City Hall listserv. And it's amazing because this leads to a great storyline where she has to look at pictures of everybody's wiener, and the doctor says that Jerry has the largest penis I have ever seen. But she looks at it and she's concerned that he might have mumps. And when she tells Joe, he's like, yeah, Joe's got mumps on his lumps. And he's like, he's so happy that this picture he sent of his genitals turns out to have mumps. He's amazing.
He's incredible. And we should never forget that he ends up being the culprit in the great pie throwing debacle.
Yes.
He throws the pie at Ben, and Andy, as Burt Macklin, studies all the clues and puts the pies in Jerry's face.
Oh, so slowly.
There must have been a second pyre. Which is actually not a line in the show, but I think it's probably a nod to the Seinfeld bit.
I have a strong suspicion that they probably wrote that joke and probably filmed it, and they were like, that's kind of a little bit of a theft. Yeah. But I'm certain that they thought of that.
Yeah, but that was Sewage Joe. I can't remember what his beef is with Ben, but he does
I think he's pissed that he got fired because of them. I feel like. Because I think Ben was in charge of the town at the time. He was the assistant city manager at the time. I'm not totally sure, but I think that was the situation. He was just pissed because he got fired after the mumps on his lumps incident.
Sure.
But Joe Fantrickham is great for a lot of reasons. He's one of the great little symbols of sort of the old boys club at City Hall, which is explored very thoughtfully. They do it very humorously, but it's also very thoughtful, and Sewage Joe is like the most outlandish example of this.
Completely agreed.
Well, one of the most outlandish. All right, so number four. Number four is a character who I think reveals the heart of this show because he's hilarious and ridiculous, but he also is a really sort of sympathetic, interesting character, and that is Pistol Pete DeCilio. So Pistol Pete is the guy who made the big dunk back in the day. So he makes the big dunk, and then and then Leslie wants to go recruit him for her campaign, and Anne ends up befriending him and learning all about his childhood. And she refers to his dad as a real piece of work. He talks about growing up in like a strict Catholic household. It's amazing. So like the whole storyline is he really wants to have moved on from making the big dunk against Eagleton in high school, and nobody will let him. And I think while the character himself is not, I don't think, like the funniest character on this show, I think he does a really nice job of building out this little world. 'Cause it's something I can imagine happening in the Pawnee that they show on this little universe. Like, there definitely are Pistol Pete DeCilios in real Pawnees in the real world.
Doesn't that feel like the most quintessential small town thing?
Absolutely. They show them these games on local access.
Yeah. Like appearing in local commercials, and like you could imagine like he can't even go to like a high school basketball game because like I feel like you probably know someone like that.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because you know both types. There are the types who wish they were Pistol Pete, and the Pistol Petes who wish they weren't. And that's part of why he's so likable. He also is coincidentally on one of my mom's soap operas. I don't remember which. The actor.
He's very good looking. He's
a very handsome guy. It's amazing when he like actually does the dunk too, and it works after he's practiced and it doesn't work. It's so rewarding. He's such a likable character, and he also shows up a couple times. He's in like 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah, he comes back a number of times. I guess like he's an interesting case because you're right. Like he's not really funny. He's like he just represents like a certain kind of character and like evokes a certain kind of feel from Pawnee. It's interesting.
Yeah, he plays a different role than most of the other characters here.
Yeah.
But I think he plays a really interesting and important role, because I think you need characters like this. You can't just have, Joan Calamezzos running around everywhere. There have to be some characters like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's a good pick. I'm glad you said that, because that would not have occurred to me. It was not on my list.
Yeah, he's a great one. So this would traditionally be the point where we do honorable mentions. I have some pretty organized honorable mentions, but I have a feeling that there will probably be some overlap. So I think you should do yours after I finish, and then I'll mention anything that you didn't. Does that seem like a good way to do it? Yeah, we can do that. All right. So number 3, one of my favorites, Ken Hotate. So Ken is the elder of the local Wamapoke tribe, and I think like the quintessential Ken Hotate line is when he says, "I know 2 things about white people. They love Rachel Ray and they are terrified of curses." And he's amazing because he's such a cool bridge from Pawnee's terrible past to Pawnee's future. He hilariously takes advantage of like all of the racism in town and the fears of being considered racist in town. He has a great commercial that shows during the Johnny Karate full-length episode that shows him at his casino. He also does a ridiculous anti-curse dance at the Pawnee festival. In my opinion, that's the funniest he is on the show. And he's saying all the ridiculous mumbo jumbo. Like he literally says says mumbo jumbo at one point. Yes. And it shows at the bottom. It's like, I am saying nothing. This means nothing. And then I think it translates mumbo jumbo as mumbo jumbo, if I remember correctly. Like, it's really funny. He totally freaks out Councilman Jam by, like, telling him that's racist. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's like, no, you're saying you're sorry is racist. And he completely turns him around and tricks him. He also is a faithful companion to Leslie, because I think he's really interesting because he jokes and screws with the Pawnee residents for their issues with the Native Americans. But he also is very understanding and very kind with Leslie, where he holds her to a high standard that she has to respect and treat the local Wamapoke properly, but he also understands that anything she does comes from a good place, and he forgives her when she buries the Wamapoke artifacts. Sort of teaches her a lesson, but helps her out at the same time. He's awesome. He's such a likable character.
He is supremely likable.
Yeah, he's sort of an efficient player here. He doesn't show up that many times on the show, but I think he's awesome, and I also think he exists in a really cool place where I can easily picture his life off screen, and I like to picture his life off screen. And I also really like to imagine just Leslie bumping into him places. He plays a great role in this show. I really, really am a big fan. And he's a great callback always to the very checkered past that the Pawneeans have with their Wamapoke neighbors.
I think it's really effective. All the murals in City Hall.
Oh, God. When she talks about, like, the massacre at the gazebo that she's trying to preserve, yeah, the picture of the Native American tied to the tree where they have a cannon set up, like, a foot away. She also, I think the best one is when she shows the map of all the atrocities against the Wamapoke, and then she's like, no, the red dots are the atrocities, or something, whatever it is. It's basically, there's only, like, one spot in town where there wasn't an atrocity against the local Wamapoke.
Yeah, and he's a good avatar for that.
Yeah, he's wonderful. So number 2 is one of my all-time favorites on the show, Shauna Malway-Tweep. So Shauna Malway-Tweep starts out as a local newspaper reporter, and you see a little bit of her, and over time she becomes this incredibly, like, pathetic, sad character with a terrible love life, who just kind of crops up from time to time and is just doing her best to as she would say, tweep up appearances. She starts a blog called Tweeping Up Appearances, Smiling Through the Pain, which is incredible. She's terrible relationships with men. So there's a point where Councilman Dexhart says, like, what's going on, sugar boobs? And Leslie's, like, so offended. And Shauna is incredibly flattered by this. It's like, oh, I just feel like I could fix him. She's so great. She talks about how she found out that her father has a second family, and she's like, well, technically we were the second family. She also sees the same therapist that Chris Traeger sees. They never seen Dr. Richard Nygaard. I just love Shauna. I love when she finds out that she's part of Leslie's, like, replacement crew. She's trying to replace Anne during Galentine's Day. I just think Shauna is really cool because she's also a member of the press corps. I think that the actress who plays her is incredibly funny. I don't know. I'm a big fan. I probably overweight how much I like this character because I think it was really funny that they kept her around and just brought her back as the show progressed for these little jokes about her personal life and how she just seems fine, but she is not fine.
Yeah, we have different takes on this one. My instinct, I think, would have actually to have put her closer to the not top 3, because in the way that you kind of like the second life of her on the show, I was kind of not off put by it, but, like, I don't know, I didn't quite get it. Like, it seems like we didn't get quite the same thing from it. Like, I thought she was kind of fulfilled, like, a necessary role early in the show as kind of like a competitor of Leslie's. Yeah. Especially with the Brandanowitz stuff.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I just didn't think, like, the bad relationships, like, really, really poor self-confidence, like, shtick I didn't find it to be that funny. But I think she gets a lot of points for being on the show for so long. And, like, she is that actress definitely is very funny. She makes the most out of her screen time, no doubt.
Yeah.
But,
well, the lucky thing is we have such a rich and deep bench that if I could take her off this list and be very happy with what we ended up with, which perhaps is what we'll do, even though I had her ranked so highly, I think there's so many good people that I'm just fine.
We have an embarrassing number of people that will eventually not make this list, so...
Yeah. All right.
There can only be one, right?
That takes us to number one. I hope we're thinking of the same person.
I can't imagine it's not, but...
Number one is the person who ranks highest on this list. Number one is the person who I'm about to talk about. Number one is the number 0 plus 1. Number one is Perd Hapley.
It was always going to be Perd Hapley.
You know why? It's because we're a couple of perdverts.
We are perdverts. We are members of the Perdpulse Court.
So he...
Not a judge. Not a judge.
Dude, that's like the best thing to judge Perd. You heard with Perd. Like, the not an actual judging flashing at the bottom is incredible. So I pulled together a list of Perd quotes that I really enjoyed. The statement this reporter has is a question. Issue number one is the first issue we're going to talk about. I'm not holding my microphone.
I was just gonna say, I just realized I forgot to turn my microphone on before recording this podcast.
A slogan is a series of words that has a meaning. It's a heartwarming story, but it's just not believable. Which is why I gave E.T. 1.5 stars. I love Perd Hapley so much. He's amazing. That. I love when Leslie calls him Perd Crapley.
I also love, it's one of the first references of him in the show. It's during the all-night telethon. When Perd Hapley gets up there, and Ron refuses to do anything at first on the show, and he's watching it from, like, the back room, and he goes, Perd Hapley, what are you doing? Side note, before he starts putting that chair together, he's like, and then you gotta wick the chair, like so. He's like, before you know it, this chair is practically wicking itself. Anyways, we're talking about Perd here. Perd is such an effective, like, stand-in for the just even better than legendary newswoman Joan Calamezzo somehow.
Yeah.
He just perfectly, like, by going so far into it, they've perfectly kind of shown exactly, like, how little a typical news anchor actually says.
Well, it's really funny because I think Joan is more like the classic TV star national news anchor.
Yeah.
Yes. She's like a Katie Couric, an Ellen, like a Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite. Like, I know that's a range of people, but like she is a big time national news personality. Perd is like a classic local news. He's just there to be there. Like, he's doing nothing, adding no value, and people love him and trust anything he says.
He's the back to you guy.
Yes.
Like, back to you, for whatever. We will now go to our field correspondent, who is in the field.
He's perfect. I freaking love Perd. Perd is great because he's a constant. Like, you know, anytime something related to the television is coming, you're very likely to see Perd.
Yes.
I also feel like somebody slept with Perd and slept with Perd, right? It comes out later that Anne has slept with Perd, which is incredible because I just need to know. Like, I picture Perd powering down. The moment the news ends, he just goes
and sits right there.
Yeah.
It's funny because they interact and he's like embarrassed by it and he's like, hello, it is awkward to see you again, and just leaves.
This feels like a conversation of a personal nature. Like,
he's incredible. I love Perd. Perd is the word.
The Perd is the word. Everything about him. I love his haircut. Oh, Perd.
And as much as I love character development, I'm very happy that Perd remains entirely static throughout the entirety of the show.
That was a very strong decision. I think that's a good thing for shows to do, is to select characters who ought to get a really neat, interesting arc, and other ones to keep totally static. He was a good decision.
And I'm glad they resisted the temptation to capitalize on his popularity and, like, make him too big of a part of the show.
Yes.
Because sometimes it is what happens in shows. It's like, oh, people really like this
It's
character.
the Jin Yang phenomenon.
It's precisely the Jin Yang phenomenon.
Yeah.
So, amazing. This is the longest list of honorable mentions I've seen.
Yeah, I have them organized by like groups of people, and I've got like 7 groups.
Yeah. Do you still want me to run through mine? Because I haven't grouped them in any way.
That's fine. Why don't you do yours, and I'll just knock out the people who you say, and then I'll note where I had them listed.
Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to probably like really not talk about any of these people for very long at all.
I think we should just like say who they are and like maybe one funny thing that they did or something.
All right. Genuine.
Yes. The Genuine. Genuine.
Yeah, he's my cousin. Does he actually ever appear, or do they just obliquely?
Yes, he
him?
appears. He appears once. I want to say he's at Donna's wedding. I don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Quinn. I think he's at Donna's wedding. I know that Donna like makes fun of him and talks about him being in the bath. Like, do you want me to tell them about taking baths with you as a kid?
Oh, you're right.
He also performs at the Unity concert.
Yes,
and he sings "Pony."
That's right. Very good.
Yes. Even though Lil Sebastian is not a pony.
No, he's not.
No,
He's a small horse.
Yes.
Not technically counting because he's not a person. DJ Roomba.
Oh. Gangsta love.
Jerry, no! You killed DJ Roomba! The 2 animal control guys.
Yes, so I didn't note them because I wasn't sure if people liked them enough. I love those guys.
They definitely
Also, one of those is Harris Whittles, who's one of the writers on the show. And Aziz's best friend.
Mm-hmm. I love when it's the fake, like, emergency protocol that Jam uses to basically filibuster them. Mm-hmm. And it's like a fake scenario. It's like, yeah, we need you to kill all the birds. He's like, okay, you want me to kill all the birds? It's like, don't actually kill all those birds. It's part of a protocol. He's like, so you do want me to kill the birds then, right?
Oh, I love those guys. I love their storyline in the Fairway Frank episode too.
Yes, exactly. Greg Pakaitis, who I don't know, it's so stacked, it'd be hard to actually lobby for him hard, and he doesn't appear too often, but his star is bright for a brief time.
I love Greg Pakaitis.
Okay, let's see. Crazy Ira and the Douche.
Yes, Crazy Ira and the Douche, I strongly considered, and I think should still be considered for inclusion in this. I was hesitant because there's so many media members. I actually think I'll take this opportunity to mention the one other radio person. Also, don't forget China Joe. Never forget China Joe.
He's so horny.
Yeah, he's very quick with the sound effects. Also,
we need a guy like that on this show. So, like, if I say something dumb,
yes, we should get a China Joe. Also, of course, Derry Merbles.
Hello, this is Terry Marbles on Fluffy Thoughts. Leslie says, like, today I'm filling in for Walter Zoomgeist, who is currently away, filling in for me. And then
it, like, keeps going to ridiculous proportions.
I love when Leslie references Batman. He goes, for our listenership,
yes,
the Batman is a fictional character who masquerades as a bat and fights crime nocturnally. And he's like, that's a very succinct description of Batman. Thank you, Terry.
It's incredible. He also plays Nefertiti's Fjord, which is like, I think he says an Afro-lesbian Norwegian funk band. And she's like, oh my god, do your listeners like this? He goes, oh, it is terrible, but they are lesbians.
I don't know how much public radio you listen to, but it's a very, as is everything in this show, it's a very effective...
Very true to life. It's also the voice of most of the characters on The Simpsons, just worth noting. He's a very talented fella. That's cool. That's Dan Castellaneta.
Oh my god, I know the name, I just didn't know it was him.
Yeah, you'll probably recognize the voice.
Yeah. These two, I feel like probably didn't make your list because they're just maybe not considered minor in your eyes. Tammy too.
I didn't consider them minor. They're weird. They're such a weird one because they're not main characters.
Tammy 2's probably close to it as a main character. Tammy 1, I would say, is not. She's only in.
But she also doesn't really count as a like she's not like a secondary. They're in a weird no man's land. My personal view, which is the only view I can have. It's a little redundant. We'll bring that up when we do a grammar pod. I hate when people say that. Sorry, I'm gross that I just said that. So kind of my view is they ought to occupy a special place where we note They are two of the best characters who ever appear on this show, but just don't fit neatly into this box, but are incredible. That's my take. I don't know how you feel.
We'll talk about it. I think Tammy 2, the thing about Tammy 2 is if she's on the list, she's probably super high.
Yes.
I don't know. And I assume for the same reason, that's why Jam didn't make the list.
That's how I felt
he's
about
enough
Jam.
of a villain, yeah.
Jam is like legitimately a main character in the last 2 seasons.
And has enough like actual changes in like his character arc, I guess you would say, that he doesn't really count.
He actually becomes kind of likable.
It's in a very strange way.
Yeah.
For someone that gets punched at a wedding, he's strangely likable. Eagleton Ron?
Yes. Ron Dunn?
Yes. I love the episode where he and Ben have like their whole experience, or he gets drunk on like the blueberry wine.
Yes.
And then it's the whole episode long, and at the very end he's like, I don't feel any better. And then actual Ron fixes it. I think amazing. It's really good writing on that episode.
Yeah.
Pawn shop guy.
Okay, so that's Herman. Herman, you're talking about the guy with the tattoos, right?
The tattoo parlor. And
so I think Herman is like a pretty close to being on this list. I freaking love Herman. He loves Brandy Max. He sells what I think it's a penis ring, right? Nipple ring.
So.
He melts down his nipple rings, and those are the rings for Leslie and Ben's wedding, right? He also buys the guitar, the Red Hot Chili Peppers guitar, and then immediately rubs out the signature. I love Herman. He's amazing.
He's really good. I think he is a strong latecomer because I think at first makes appearances because he's just like one of the random people in the crowd that shouts really bad suggestions. Ham and mayonnaise!
Okay,
ham
so
and mayonnaise!
Let's talk about that then, if we can. So I had a list called the Random Citizens.
Yeah.
So Herman was high on that list. I love Slug Lady or Snail Lady. I think it's slugs. She asks the town to remove the slugs from her lawn or her sidewalk.
Yeah.
And they get rid of them, and she says, I didn't say get rid of them! And she only wants a couple left. She also was mad because she drank the water from the fountain.
Yeah.
She turned it into sun tea, and now she's sick, even though it says don't drink it. She's amazing. I love the guy who starts all the chants, like ham and mayonnaise! Your daughter is... What is he? Your daughter is an idiot! Your daughter's... Except for Turnip. He wants his pet to be involved in the time capsule. Another one who I think these two might actually be worth including. I put them in the Random Citizens Brigade. They start out as such, but kind of take on a slightly more significant role. The Langmans.
Yeah.
So Marsha and Marshall Langman.
I think they would count as minor characters, but...
I think that they are borderline on this list and maybe ought to be on the list.
Yeah.
They're the representatives of the Christian right in Pawnee. What is their line about the penguins? They have some spoof on the "It's not Adam and Steve" joke about how the penguins after Leslie marries two male penguins to each other.
They're very good.
They also are very against teaching birth control methods to the elderly, or I guess safe sex to the elderly in town. They're amazing.
Working in a line that involves public hearings and public meetings, these people are stunningly and alarmingly close to their real life counterparts. Yeah. Which makes it significantly funnier. I've attended meetings like that, which is great.
I'm also pretty sure that Harris shows up in the crowd one time advocating that the park near Ann's house become a topless park.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Just a quick story. It reminded me because of the slug lady. I didn't attend this meeting, but I heard from a coworker. A woman showed up to a meeting where a road was getting put, or some kind of development, and just sat in the back and said up front that there are a lot of owls that live in the trees there. And since the owls could not attend the meeting and speak for themselves, she would speak for them.
Wow. That was very kind of her.
Yes. What she meant was that she was going to hoot. So she actually sat in the back and hooted the entire time like an owl. Rather than advocate for their case, she just woo, woo, woo in the back. Just to remind everyone that the owls' consideration should be taken, to be discussed.
That is very different.
Yes. I've also heard tell of people that have expressed alarm that they're going to remove bushes because that's where the pixies live. Like the kind of things that you can't really, like, maybe you could make up, but if they were something like that appeared on a show like Parks and Rec, you'd be like, ha ha ha, that would never happen.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Anyways, I'll keep going here. Some characters that I think don't really qualify as minor characters. Bobby Newport.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to do with the Newports.
Yeah.
They're kind of weird. I think Jessica Wicks, who marries Nick Newport, is a legitimate recurring character and is incredible.
Yeah, agreed. I had, let's see, the Grizzle guy, not really worth, like, anywhere near the top of the list, but...
Yeah, they were interesting. I wasn't a huge fan of the Grizzle stuff, but they were interesting.
They were just funny because they were, like... When the show started, that character, like, couldn't have existed, but it was cool that they inserted someone to account for that type of person.
It's also funny that, like, some of the issues that came up were very prescient and are now, like, way bigger issues, and, like, oh no, we just totally want to know everything that you want to do all the time so we can sell you stuff. Like, like, oh no.
Last couple, Dennis Feinstein.
Yeah, Dennis Feinstein is also a contender for this.
I think he deserves consideration.
Yeah.
What's her name? Jerry's daughter, and then all the Gurgiches.
Yes, the Gurgiches are, I put Gail down, but like all of the Gurgiches, Millicent, Gail, whatever the other ones' names are, it's so emblematic of this show because you have all of the ridiculous storylines, like he and Gail go to Muncie for vacation, he has this crazy life, like for his birthday, he like goes to bed early. There's, like, discussion of him having sex with Gail, and it disgusts Tom. And then you meet Gail, and she's Christy Brinkley, and his daughters are incredibly gorgeous, and they're all wonderful, and he has a great life. And they're also sad for him at one point, and, like, they realize Gary/Jerry/Larry has a really happy, wonderful life outside of the office.
There are a couple of nice moments with Jerry at the end of the show.
Yeah.
But... actually, more than a couple. I love that episode where Ben, he plans that amazing day for Leslie and ends up doing it all with Jerry and then defends him publicly. Leslie's like, Ben, don't do this.
and then he tells him not to either. He's like, Ben, it's not worth it. It's okay. It's so great.
Okay. The Saperstein's lawyer.
Yes. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned him because he's great.
Is your client Diddy? It's not Diddy.
It's not Diddy. He also, so he has that appearance. He appears a bunch of times as like a random attorney and is just so great.
I really like him.
Yeah. He also is in The Good Place, which is another Mike Schur show, and he's very amusing in that.
Last one I had on here was Ethel Beavers. Okay,
Ethel Beavers. I freaking love Ethel Beavers. She's another one I think is kind of borderline, like, to be considered. When they go to her doorstep and she's been on a date and she's like, my date went well, and there's a guy in the doorway, you're like, oh no, Ethel Beavers.
I love when she gets invited to Galentine's and at the end she's like, don't invite me to this again.
I love Ethel. So she works on what, is it the third floor?
I think so.
Which is the creepy floor with like divorce court and stuff. Which is the first episode they see. That floor is incredible. It's like watching an episode of like Batman the Animated Series in Crime Alley.
Yes.
Ethel Beavers is so great.
Who else did you have?
So from the City Hall group, Councilman Hauser, who Leslie always talks to while he's in the bathroom. Councilman Dexhart, who always has his sex scandals. Councilman Milton, who is very old, very racist, and very sexist, and is hilarious. Tanya is her name. I looked it up, aka the lady from Sue's Salads. I love that lady. She shows up a bunch of times and is very indignant in her defense of salads. From the other food proprietors, JJ.
Yep.
From the rich people category, there's one here I actually think should be considered. So Jessica Wicks, who I think is a contender. Dennis Feinstein, who I think is a contender. Ingrid DeForest, who probably is not like the strongest character, but that's the Kristen Bell character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's good.
But the one who I think should legitimately contend is Annabelle Porter from Blush.
Yeah.
She's incredible. I love when she starts selling beef milk, which is just milk, but it's like $15. And Tom and Donna are like, oh no, it is not just milk. This is only artisanal teat to table milk. And like, she's great. I like Annabelle Porter a lot. And she tries to commercialize Ron's tables and chairs and stuff. And oh, it's great. April's friends, Oren.
Oh yeah, Oren.
I love Oren. I also, yeah, he's great. He shows up a lot more than you
God
think.
Damn it. There are now close to 20 that I seriously want on the list. Shit.
I know. There's also April's boyfriends, Derek, and I think the other one's Ben, I think, which is weird. But she has her boyfriends who are gay, but she's dating both of them. They're very funny early on. They disappear quickly, but they're funny.
Forgot about them.
From the totally random category, Brandy Max.
Yep.
Who's amazing. Who
starred in over 300 films last year alone. She also stars in the dramatization of Leslie's recall election, and she plays Ron Swanbone or something. I like when she says when they're running against each other.
Yes, that's her funniest bit.
I'd like to reiterate that Leslie and I are essentially the same person.
It's incredible. She keeps aligning herself with Leslie, no matter how hard Leslie tries to distance herself from Brandy Max. She can't do it.
She's solid too.
Yeah, Brandy Max is a funny character.
Undoubtedly.
The other totally randoms I wanted to mention are Dr. Harris is his name. He's the doctor who says Jerry literally has the biggest penis I've ever seen.
He's on it enough that you know who he is, yeah.
Yeah, he's on a bunch. He also sees Andy when Andy finally goes to the doctor for the first time in basically ever.
He also shows up to Anne's Halloween party dressed as a doctor.
Yes.
Yeah, he's around.
He's also clearly like a terrible person. He makes a couple references that are like really awful.
Yep.
He's very funny. And then the last one I wanted to mention is Denise Yermley, who is the woman who sings. I think she sings "I Feel Love." I want to say she sings like a 70s funk song or disco song to kill time during the telethon. She also sings the insanely long rendition of the of Star Spangled Banner during the debate. Yeah. She also sings "Sweet Dreams" at one point for some reason.
You really did a good job with this list, Mike.
I thought about this a lot, and I love this freaking show, and I love these characters.
It's a wonderful show. I'm glad that we finally got to spend some time really, really just loving it up. Yeah. But we have some work to do.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about ones who we think are serious that maybe ought to be considered?
I think Tammy 2 just slides in to the is actually a minor character camp, so I would lobby hard for her.
Yep. Also, for the listeners who don't know, that is actually the real life Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman's real life wife.
Indeed. I know we're already heavy on media people, but I think not so much Crazy Ira, but I think the douche actually...
After the appearance when you learn he went to Northwestern is just amazing.
There are a lot that I want to be serious about, but I don't think I quite am, like Eagleton Ron, Bobby Newport. Dennis Feinstein's in it enough, and he never has a redemptive arc, so I don't think he can be considered a major character.
Yeah, no, he would definitely be in the wheelhouse for this. He feels to me like number 11. He's so close. He might be on though. He's close.
Yeah, I Bacchitis and Oren are so funny, but I just think given the quality of this list, they're probably 12, 13 type guys. So I think that's it. I think I'm really serious about Dennis Feinstein, the douche, and Tammy 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Dennis Feinstein, the douche, and Tammy 2.
Yeah. Are you having second thoughts? Are there any on your honorable mention list that you're in retrospect thinking they should actually probably be on here?
So I'm thinking about there's only two other ones that I think ought to be considered. I think Jessica Wicks is legitimately very funny and fills a really interesting role in the show. I don't know. She probably is a very close miss, but I think she's a close miss. So I think, I don't know. I just don't know if Tammy 2 counts. I'm so weird on her. But I definitely think the douche. I think Dennis Feinstein is a good one. I also think that I don't know if this is too cheaty, but I think that a sort of catch-all for random citizens would be a fun one, because I love the Chant Guy, I love Slug Lady, I love Herman. Like,
I like
those meetings are so freaking funny.
I agree, and it wouldn't really be one of our pods if we didn't do a group pick. I like that idea. Let's discuss that further. With Tammy too, I would argue that she's less of a major character than John Ralphio, and yet we're considering John Ralphio a minor character.
I guess my quibble is not so much that she's it's more the recurring thing. She's not really I guess she is. She shows up a couple times. My only point is, when she's on the show, it's about her. In a way that these other characters, it's not exactly about them in that same way. Like, there's never a Purd episode. Purd just pops in and out and is just there. When Tammy 2 shows up, the episode is about her. Mostly. There's a couple episodes where it's not totally.
Yeah. But like,
I think it might be, I think my argument's sounding flimsy.
Her as a character though, like, she's only there in tandem with Ron. She doesn't exist without Ron, and like her interactions with other characters, like when she dates Tom, like they're all in a way to expand on Ron's character.
His name is not Tom, his name is Glenn.
Yeah, that's right.
Shut up, Glenn!
And I think, like, also if we were to make an arbitrary cutoff point for number of episodes appeared in, like, hers would be low enough that I just think, like, I don't know. I just think she counts.
All right, I'm down with her. Then okay. I think she's gonna have to be like top 3 or 4.
I agree. Okay, so with that being said, if we want to put Tammy 2 and the douche and a catch-all for meeting people, we're gonna have to do some trimming.
So I'm looking at this. I think that I'm fine with just dumping Shauna. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I think that Detlef Schrempf probably falls off.
Probably.
It's such a gonzo, hilarious decision to include Detlef Schrempf in this show, but there's other great decisions that this show has made.
I think the ones that I think are can't come off, obviously Purd.
Yeah.
Obviously the Sapersteins. I think Joan Calamezzo's untouchable. I think that Kyle, I'm going to lobby hard for Kyle. I'll argue for him. And Barney. I think Sewage Joe too. I don't know. I would put Barney above. I think the ones that are looking vulnerable to me are like the Ken Hotates and the Pistol Petes, which is, I know it's weird to say since they were so high on your list, but I just think that their number of appearances, the fact that we talked to the Pistol Pete, like, if you, like, put him in with the rest of these, like, he's a great character, but, like, he kind of fills a different role.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My inclination would be to pull Shauna. I'm fine with pulling Ken Hotate. I happen to love Ken Hotate, but I understand what you're saying. And I want to keep Pete, but I would move him down.
Okay.
So I would be comfortable if we, like, moved Pete to 10 in Detlef's spot, pulled Ken and Shauna, and, I mean, this would be too simple. I think we should do more work, but, like, I think there's a comfortable argument that, like, the meeting people and Tammy 2 could take those high spots and the douche could drop to one of the low spots.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's a lot of reordering that needs to be, well, I take that back. I'm about to completely contradict that. I think the Sapersteins should be as high as, like, top 3. They, like John Ralphio is, like, really straddling the line of main character.
What do you feel about putting the Sapersteins at 4, putting, like, Tammy 2 and the meeting people, like, the concerned citizens of Pawnee at 2 and 3?
Would you put the concerned peoples of Pawnee above or below Tammy?
I'd probably put Tammy at 2.
I would argue that I would put those people at 2, but I could see.
No, let's do that then. I was trying to be nice to you. Let's do that.
I think they're more. I think they're
more at the heart of this show.
The essence of the show kind of boiled down.
Yeah.
And not just to be nice to you, I think I would put the Sapersteins over Tammy too, because there are 3 of them. They function in a lot of different roles. I think they're funnier than Tammy too.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. So
then I think the power block we have currently from 5 to 8 is pretty strong. Like Sewage Joe, Barney, Kyle, and Joan Calamezzo.
I actually really like that order. And then it would be like maybe the douche and then Pistol Pete.
I think so.
I like that. Do we want to make any last minute emendations to this?
Purd.
I want to get this right.
I do too. I'm looking like really much more carefully than usual because I really want this to be good.
Is it? I'm having second thoughts about like in the Joan and the douche territory, just because like their number of appearances is far greater than either Kyle's or Sewage Joe's. I think Kyle is the funniest of those characters. Yeah.
Sewage Joe is just, he's a freaking gem. I do think that there's a reasonable argument to be made Sewage Joe could slide down, like between Joan and the douche.
That feels appropriate.
Okay.
But that would put Barney from the accounting firm at 5, Kyle at 6, then Joan, then Sewage Joe, then the douche, then Pistol Pete.
Yeah.
That feels very comfortable to me.
So do we think we have a list?
It feels like we have a definitive list of the minor/supporting characters. Oh, wait. We couldn't go through an entire podcast without mentioning him, even though he's for sure a major character. Just wanted to throw out Craig, because I really like him.
I was so anti-Craig for the first, 2 episodes. I was like, what? He just stressed me out. He was just yelling all the time. And then, I don't know what happened. Something clicked, and I was like, oh, this character is hilarious.
You're so adorable, I can't even stand it. I have to go lay down for a half hour. No! 40 minutes!
He's so great. I also love that he ends up with Typhoon, because I'm a huge Typhoon fan.
Typhoon!
I know. Typhoon ends up being the best man. He ends up becoming Ron's best friend and marries Craig. I love freaking Typhoon and Craig.
The Euro trash.
Yeah.
You dislike Europeans.
Tell me more about how much you dislike Europeans. It's a great
clever way to find something in common that they have.
Yes, it's a great way of transitioning Ron from his old barber Salvatore. I love when he gives he puts the crisp $5 bill on Salvatore's corpse, and he's like, "But as you know, I don't believe in over tipping or something." So he goes for exact change from his grieving wife.
Anyways, very last minute mention there, and not really in contention at all for this list. But if we were going to do a Parks and Rec pod, it had to be mentioned. Now it feels like we have a definitive top 10 list of the supporting and minor characters on the show Parks and Recreation. Mike, would you like to recap them for us?
I would be delighted to. At number 10, Pistol Pete DeCilio. Number 9, The Douche of Crazy Ira and the Douche. I believe his name is Howard Tuttleman, if I remember correctly.
Douche.
Number 8, Sewage Joe Fantringham. He's got mumps on his lumps.
Thanks you so much for looking up all these people's last names. I never would have known Sewage Joe's last name.
It really adds to it, I think.
Yes.
Number 7, Joan Calamezzo.
Legendary newswoman.
Number 6, I don't know his last name, and I'm glad I don't. Kyle. Number 6, Barney.
From the accounting firm!
Wait, did I screw that up? Is he number 5? Barney's number 5. I should have written numbers next to these. I'm not a great accountant myself. Number 5, Barney, who is accounting on your sympathy for me for screwing up the numbering. Number 4, Tammy 2, who I believe has kept her last name and is still Tammy Swanson. Number 3, all 3 of the Sapersteins. Jean Ralphio, Mona Lisa, and Dr. Saperstein.
They are the worst number 2 we've ever had.
Number 2, all of the concerned citizens of Pawnee who are constantly causing problems at the town meetings, from Slug Lady, who drinks her poisoned sun tea, to Herman, who gives you his melted down nipple rings, to Chant Guy, who thinks your daughter is an idiot.
That the park should provide free ham and mayonnaise sandwiches.
Ham and mayonnaise. 2, of course, number 1. The only man who could occupy the number 1 slot on this list.
Because he is the number 1 spot on the list.
Because he is number 1. Purred happily. Not Judge Purred happily.
Not a judge. Not a judge.
Not a judge at all.
Wow, Mike. That was long overdue and so much fun.
Yeah, that was a blast. I'm so glad we did this one. And if you don't like Parks and Rec, I'm so sorry. You ought to watch it. It's an excellent television program.
Yeah, watch the entire series and then come listen to this pod.
And then tell us all of the many ways we failed you.
Yes, which I'm sure we have. All right, well done, buddy. I will see you next week.
All right, arrivederci.
Peace.
Alrighty, friends. That was our top 10 for this week, but now we'd love to hear your top 10. So please check us out on all of our available social media outlets, traditional outlets, whatever outlets we have. Check us out on Twitter at top10km. That's all spelled out, top10km. Our email, top10km, spelled the same way, at gmail.com. Or our site, top10km.podbean.com. All forms of communication accepted, except for serial killer notes. Please don't send us any of those.
If you like the pod, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never have to miss an episode of Top 10 ever again. If you didn't like it, please tell us why. We'll try to make the show better. Our theme music was composed by Kevin MacLeod, and our artwork was created by Erin Sant. You can check out her stuff at Sant Design on Instagram.
Alrighty, goons. We'll see you next week.